was awesome to see, the passing game that we had last year, the explosiveness. I think the Notre Dame game is something that I watched here in Nashville and had a watch party for it. And, you got to speak on that game a little bit. What an unbelievable, part of the season it was to kick things off. And like, hey, we're special and we can go win and the drive to end it. But what a game, huh?
I mean, yeah, that was the game of the year for me, honestly. Yeah, even though we came back from South Carolina down 30-3, I think Notre Dame was just kind of like the biggest one. It was early in the season, and you get to play in that stadium where there's touchdown Jesus. You haven't seen it before, and you're wearing icy white jerseys. Everything's just clicking. Um, Fans are rocking, and then you kind of shut them up at the end of the game. You hear the switch and fans and all the Aggies, and it was just that was the start. That was the start of Aggies traveling.
Yeah.
All these games this year. I think when they saw that, like you want to see more.
Of
And,
course. Of course.
that's what we want for the rest of the year, this season as well, because it's going to be the same way. People are going to get a dogfight out of us. You see, we got grind behind us, and that's the motto of the team, and we're going to live by that each game. It's going to be hard to beat us.
An unbelievable job at the end of the game on the last drive to go through your progressions, hit your reads, and then at at the very end where it is fourth down and half the stadium is still to this day bitching about a holding call that, hey, everyone, it happens in games. It does. You're not going to ever see a game that's officiated, whether it's NFL, college, whatever it may be, it's perfect. These guys are human and make mistakes too. And, whatever your thoughts are on about it, you did such an amazing job of making sure you're able to drift and get that ball up as the last play of the game to where it's like, this can't be thrown out of bounds. This can't be thrown low where it skips in. It has to be a ball where at least you jump up. Maybe you get a PI, or maybe he comes down with it in the way that he did. And it's just such a special memory to watch you guys doing the fucking Fighting Irish dance and stuff and everything that happened. For me, I've been very vocal about Notre Dame and what they are. They're an unbelievable program. I know I have a ton of friends that went there, but to take down a school that's had a ton of success and been great throughout the years on a play like that and get your momentum into the season is huge.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. And if anybody has anything to say about a penalty the game, I got 2 touchdowns taken away this year uh, for bad holding calls. So I think the officials got that back.
And
So
the kickoff in that game.
yeah, exactly. So we don't want to hear none of that. So,
Elko has a ton of belief in you and what you are as a player. Identified you from a year where you and Connor were bouncing back and forth, and then you get a chance to be the starter, and now you get handed the keys, and it's just you got to speak a little bit about Coach Elko's, putting pressure on you to develop your skill set, but also believe in you in a way that's got to feel just exhilarating.
yeah, no, Elko's a great coach. I think he's believed in me since day one. He knows that I've kind of worked to be in the position I am, but he also knows that there's a lot more work that can be done and will be done. He pushes me to try to find that in myself, to try to go in and get more extra work, find out the little details that I need to clean up for myself and to make this team better. But yeah, I mean, since day one, I think when I had my first SEC start against Florida, I remember him coming up telling me that I was starting in warmups. And he said, "You got this. Like, you trust yourself. You've been practicing for this. You're ready for this. Just go ball." And that gave me like a boost in that moment. Just because when you're the backup, but your coach is telling you that he believes in you, even though you're young and this is your first time doing something like this. It was just him having that belief. I was ready to go, and I went out there and popped it against Florida. Had that power clip at the end of the game.
That guy's still looking for his fucking ankles. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app. App is really easy to use. Just pick more or less on 2+ players to make a lineup. That's it. And Prize Picks is available in most states. Football may be over, but basketball season is heating up, and tourney time is right around the corner. Just use code Johnny and get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. As you go through the season, right, we spoke about Notre Dame. You go through, another stretch there through the middle of the season where you guys are really rolling. And, it was always kind of one of those things last year where you guys have a ton of belief, but as the Aggie fan base, man, it's almost like waiting on something negative to happen. It's almost like, man, what's going to happen where we slip up one of these? You look at the year before, the Auburn game was a game that, like, damn, we should have won that game. And you guys handled weathering the storm really well. You roll into South Carolina, and then you get down and you look at halftime, and I'm sitting in the building, and I have to go to a suite to do an appearance for the 3rd quarter, and, I'm watching it from the end zone, and you just feel the shift in that stadium. But how was that locker room like at halftime, and how was it coming out in the 3rd quarter and crawling back so fast for a game that looked like it was completely out of reach?
The locker room was actually like pretty calm. We really didn't have like much of a pep talk. Elko usually comes in and says his little halftime speech.
If you want to win a football game on the road, you got to start playing winning football, right? Winning football means no penalties, right? Stop killing ourselves with drives. It means no turnovers. Protect the football. It means create turnovers on defense, and it means we've got to tackle on defense. You do those things, you will run them out of the building. 2 turnovers, a punt block, kill drives, extended drives, missed tackles, and they're up 4. You're the better team, but if you don't play winning football, it doesn't matter.
People have seen those on the internet, but it's like he didn't do that this game. I think he knew that we knew what it needed to happen, and I think I went in there and brought the team up, and all I said was like South Carolina, everything they've done, like that's the best they've got. Everything good that could happen to them happened to them. So like, all we got to do is come out there, go one play at a time. Don't focus on, you know, trying to outscore them in a quarter. Just go out there and focus on executing the play that's called. And sure enough, the stuff happened in our way because we know how to do this. Like this, it wasn't the best team, but they're good enough to beat any team in the SEC. Like their record didn't replicate what the players they had on the team for sure. And we knew that we were the better team though, because that was just our confidence.
Yeah, I think Sellers came out and played an unbelievable first half. The fade
Mm,
ball down the sideline, dropping the bucket, and, like, guys getting behind the sticks a little bit, off on a little couple throws here and there that aren't, normal characteristics out of you guys that you've been accustomed to throughout the season. But an unbelievable lesson for any young quarterback or anybody who's sitting on that team or playing behind you or whoever about, perseverance, not letting the flow of the game get too out of reach because it's very easy in that position to just hang your head and kind of
mhm.
sulk about it. And that's not the energy that Elko gives off. That's not the energy of the team, the vibe, the mantra, everything that you guys have going on in the building. And it's just awesome to see. I came into the locker room after the game. What an amazing experience, right? Like, I left that locker room that day, like, it was such a celebration and it was such a high point, like, to come back and do that,
Yeah,
the program history, comeback type of thing. I just left that locker room with the feeling that it was like, we're going to Northgate and we're going to rip it and we're going to celebrate this. When really, me being around as much football as I have, I was holding my breath. Like,
yeah.
we got away with one. And the schedule that we have coming up is a tough one, right? You got a game against Texas, that's a huge game, and then, I go to that game as well, and I'm in the stadium, and I'm sitting in a suite. You slip, I see your knee on the replay and stuff, and immediately, like, I make my way down to the field. I'm like, "I gotta see this in person because 'cause I'm like, I've had those no contact injuries. I've had
Mhm.
the, like, my knee used to pop in and pop out, like, hyperextend and come back in, but I never would have, like, serious problems where I could just put a sleeve on it and go back. So that had to be a moment for you where, you're trying to go make a play, you make a normal cut, and it just kinda, like, wobbles on you a little bit. It's gotta be a scary feeling in that game, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean that was the scariest thing I've ever felt in my life. I've never had like a really a no contact injury. I've had a knee injury before, but it wasn't like no contact. So I was like, I in the moment thought it was wraps. I was like, oh shit, like, but I got up and when I realized like when they did the stability test and all that with the knee, I was like, I'm good. I don't care how much it hurts. I'm going back. Y'all can do what you want, but give me a shot. I'm in. Like it's nothing gonna take me out. I played Notre Dame with dang near a separated collarbone, so Um, I'm a pretty tough cat. It's hard to keep me out of a game, especially that one. That's one game I'm not gonna come out of
For
if I don't
sure,
need.
for sure. I think everybody in the building, everybody in the Aggie, network and Aggie Nation knows that, sees that. Your toughness has never been in question. That was just a tough day in general. I think from a
Yeah,
offensive standpoint, a big deal when you're throwing into the wind and you're throwing downwind, right? It's a little bit harder to drive the ball, harder to control it when you're downwind. It can get away from you a little bit. And then when you're throwing into the wind, it can get a little wobbly on you if it doesn't come out of your hand right. And then you look at it as a team game, right? From a defensive standpoint, we had Arch in positions and multiple, spots throughout that game where we get a stop here, the game changes, right? And he runs it up the middle and scores, and it's just like one of those days where it was very much Texas's day. I'm in the locker room after the game, adapt you up, make sure you're good, and like get out of there because it's a nightmare for me to walk through Austin and get to, where I'm going. But when you reflect back on that game as a whole, it's got to give you some motivation going into this year, and one that's got to be circled on the calendar, even though it's at the back end of the schedule.
no, yeah, it's always gonna be one circuit on the calendar. And we have the opportunity to have him back in Kyle Field, so we're gonna be rocking. We're gonna find a way. There's no doubt about it. We're gonna find a way.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I think it was interesting to see too. It's such a rivalry game, right? And or going in, obviously coming in, feeling really well after the second half of South Carolina. And that game's tough. That game's tricky. You can't really say a lot in the media before and give them any more attention than they already have and hype.
yeah,
And I think there was a time just that there was a little bit of billboard material that we kind of gave them because they had struggles versus Mississippi State and Kentucky, and they were the preseason number 1, and they lose to Ohio State, but, like, a very good football team nonetheless from the running back position, from their defense, just like, a very solid team, so it's a tricky rivalry to where you wanna say so much, but it almost hurts you.
yeah. I guess I don't honestly. I don't believe in all that billboard stuff. Um,
I
I
do.
think I think everybody got something to say. If it because football guys might have something to do. Sure, I guess.
I did
Football
it in
guys.
high school to our rival.
Yeah,
We, in my sophomore year maybe, and we beat Cibolo Steel in San Antonio, and we weren't supposed to beat them, and it was a crazy game, and we go into our rival next week against Alamo Heights, and I get on Facebook, and I'm like, "Pfft, you pussies think you've seen anything in that game? Wait till this one." And it was the worst high school game I ever played. They came out hungry. They popped us in the mouth. You're in the bottom of the pile, and they're just
yeah,
like, "Man." And I remember getting back to the locker room after, and Coach Smith and Coach Scott, my 2 coaches, were just like, "That's not how we play ball. We just go on about our business. You don't say anything, you shake hands, you go on with what it is." So, I guess that's why the reason I believe in it, but, you know, the game of football is about flow, is about momentum, is about so many other things, but, it's definitely a little different when they have something to say about it and they're pinning their ears back 24/7 and coming after you, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel you. I'm not one to say. I don't really say stuff anyway. Like I'm the one. I stay off. I stay off the stuff.
You are pretty quiet on the field too. Is that how you've always been?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't really say anything unless I need to. Like if you're barking at me, people don't bark at me. Like they don't. If you say something to me, I'm gonna say something back, and you're gonna see it. I'm just not gonna play. But I let my play do the talking.
I got all the smoke, man. I'd be at the bottom of piles and I'd be running all over teams and they'd spit in my face in the bottom of the pile. And that white boy, like fucking just, it was fucking midget. Like they called me everything in the book at the bottom of these piles and stuff. And, it got me to the point where I used it as fuel and as motivation to be like, well, I'm coming back again and I'm running this ball again. And you're going to have to try and catch me all day long. And for me, it did give me motivation. It did give me